10 years ago today, game developers... What's that? This game came out in February of 2012? Well, this is embarrassing. As I was saying, 10 years ago, developer CyberConnect 2 and prolific game publisher Capcom brought us the near-gaming masterpiece known as Asura's Wrath. Asura's Wrath sees our titular hero return again and again from the limbo-like realm of Naraka. No, that's Baraka, and that's Banaka, and that's a banana. Oh yeah, now you're way off. The limbo-like realm of Naraka. Nailed it. In an unrelenting quest for revenge for the murder of his wife and the imprisonment of his daughter. All of this the result of a bold act of betrayal, a power play perpetuated by Deus, the commander of the Guardian Generals, in service to his cause. So let's gather with the Guardians and seek divination from the deities as we take a look back at this epic story of demigods and demons, this fantastical tale of mantra, monsters, and muscle that is Asura's Wrath.
Asura, 12000年の眠りを打ち砕く圧倒的な絶望を打ち砕くゲームの固定概念を打ち砕く逆境粉砕アクションドラマアスラズロース Capcom.
Now I realize that little overview of the story is just skimming the surface and not really giving all the details, but I promise we will circle back around to that and discuss it more fully and more in depth. But let's look at a few more aspects of the game first. Starting with, as a decade-old game, how does it look? There are moments perhaps when the graphics fall a bit short. There are imperfections, but for the most part, this game still looks great for something that came out over 10 years ago on an older console. During combat, especially during the cinematics, Asura's Wrath can deliver some impressive, if occasionally highly stylized visuals. And some of those lighting and particle effects are undeniably excellent, coupled with the fantastically rendered interlude sequences, which play more like a motion comic rather than a cinematic, and some dynamically animated, well, anime sequences. This game can still offer players some awe-inspiring sights. So, how does it play? The brawling mechanics are good, but not great, and can be a bit repetitive at times. But I think there's enough move variety and ways to create your own combos and chain together moves that make it fun. The same might be said of some of the flying levels, where Asura is soaring through the sky over the cosmos doing battle with his enemies. The description of that does sound amazing, but these areas also suffer from the same feeling of repetitiveness. This is one of the areas of the game that might possibly disappoint. But there is enough variety in the level design of those stages that keeps it interesting and entertaining. Asura's Wrath is also one of those games that relies heavily on quick-time mini-games throughout each level. However, this is actually a strength rather than a weakness. These instances are integrated so well into the gameplay that it serves to further immerse players into the story rather than pulling them out. It is incredibly satisfying to score an excellent rating when landing a massive jaw-shattering blow on one of your demonic and/or deific adversaries. Pair this with powerful, specially animated attacks that the player can hit fallen foes with when they are stunned, and it makes for an extremely engaging supernatural smackdown. Also, it should be noted that there are a few episodes where you play as Asura's brother-in-law and rival, Yasha, which adds a bit more variety to the gameplay. How does it sound? The score is, in a word, magnificent. The soundtrack, consisting mainly of music composed by Chikayo Fukuda, sorry if I butchered your name, Sensei, contains a multitude of sweeping operatic arias, Tenchu-esque combat themes, and rock-infused riffs to get the pulse pounding and amp the players up for the attack. The score also includes Antonin Dvorak's, again sorry if I wrecked the pronunciation, Symphony No. 9 from the New World's second and fourth movement, the former featured in Asura's battle with his old instructor on the moon. Yes, it is as rad as it sounds. Now that we've covered those aspects of the game, let us circle back, like the Ouroboros of old, of ancient times, to the story. The action begins on the cusp of an orbital battle between Emperor Strata's 8 guardian generals and their eternal enemy, the monstrous Goma. The most powerful of the Goma being Vlitra, being described as the corrupted will of the planet Gaia itself. Is Gaia planet Earth? Probably. It makes sense in the mythological context. At the end of this massive violent conflict, Vlitra has been subdued, but not destroyed. Deus, the commander of the 8 guardian generals, has grown weary of this constant back and forth over the millennia. And Deus has a plan. That plan involves usurping power from the Emperor by killing him and framing Asura for the crime. Deus intends to utilize Asura's daughter Mithra's mantra-channeling abilities to grant the generals even greater power. For Deus's gambit to work, Asura must be removed from play. And this leads to Asura's first of many trips to Naraka, where, goaded by the mysterious golden spider and spurred on by rage for the death of his wife and his love for his daughter, our hero begins his long quest for revenge. A quest which sees him stomp a mudhole in his former allies, the remaining 8 guardian generals, who have now arrogantly rebranded themselves as the 7 deities. A journey on which he befriends a mortal girl who reminds him of his daughter. There's some somewhat horrific soul harvesting that Asura is definitely not okay with, an activation of Asura's insanely overpowered beast mode, an epic final showdown with Deus, and a titanic final conflict with the most powerful Goma of them all, the returned planet-sized menace of Vlitra, whose core form is bizarrely a mirror of Asura's beast mode form, and I'm not sure if there's ever a satisfactory explanation for why that is. And ultimately, a reunion with his beloved daughter. Now I know what some of you are going to say. You're leaving out massive parts of the story. I don't really know what voice I'm doing there. The reason I'm doing that is because I really want you to play it. If you've never played it before, I want you to experience those moments in all their epicness and all their glory. And if you've played it before, to go re-experience those moments so you remember just how awesome they were. I am about to give away a major plot twist, so spoilers ahead, because the end of the game is not really the end. Extra DLC content put you face to face with your true enemy. Remember that golden spider? Well, the reunion between Asura and his daughter is somewhat short-lived, thanks to this guy right here, who's been weaving quite a tangled web. You see what I did there? Because the golden spider is actually this guy. And his name is Chakravartin. So as you see, Chakravartin explains that he is the catalyst, the creator, the one above all who set all of these things in motion. All of the hardship, all of the loss, all of the pain and suffering, all of the death and destruction that has occurred for thousands of years, it was all put into motion by this smug wang right here. So after a preliminary skirmish that Chakravartin refers to as yet another test, one that he feels Asura has passed, he offers our hero the chance to govern the fate of the planet in Chakravartin's stead, as Chakravartin himself plans to blank off to other worlds and other universes to offer his guidance, or as we might see it, to meddle in their affairs and bring destruction and ruination. Knowing the kind of guidance Chakravartin provides, and still being enraged over his own suffering and the suffering of his loved ones, Asura politely refuses. Which leads to a final confrontation between our multi-armed champion and the very anime, kind of creepy final form of Chakravartin. But as the villain has pointed out, he is the source and the spinner of all mantra. And without this mantra, as our hero's daughter points out, Asura will die. Leading us to a potent and poignant, if cliched, heroic sacrifice. One of the most accurate statements I've seen written about Asura's wrath is, it's like Dragon Ball Z meets God of War. Or was it like God of War meets Dragon Ball Z? One of those. I say that's pretty spot on. Although I might compare it to Saint Seiya with all of the mythological references. Some of those massive spaceship armadas remind me of fleets straight out of Battleship Yamamoto or Captain Harlock, or even a Gundam sequence. One of the creators stated that they pulled heavily from Buddhist and Hindu mythology, a fact which should be fairly obvious. The conflict between the Guardian Generals and the Goma, close enough, could be compared to the struggle between the Archangels and the Fallen Angels, or demons if you prefer. To put it in a more Western context, that some of you might be able to more easily identify with. But if we were to start a list of things it might be compared to, we could be here quite a while. However, to immediately contradict myself once more in the same video, there is one other comparison I do have to make, just out of my own curiosity. Given that the demigods in Asura's wrath are constructs of a higher power, was some inspiration taken from Jack Kirby's Eternals?
You aren't human. You're an immortal, indestructible being over 500,000 years old. You were put here by aliens to preserve and safeguard the Earth.
Although the comic book versions of the Eternals are definitely more organic than their film counterparts. The film versions could still cry and feel and do other things, seeming more like the cyborg demigods from Asura's Wrath. Were the game developers influenced somewhat by Kirby's characters? And did Asura's Wrath somehow inform Chloe Zhao's Eternal? I haven't seen any official confirmation of this in any interviews, but it does make me wonder. Asura's Wrath is a revenge quest and hero's journey on a cosmic scale. A sprawling, brawling beat-em-up of epic proportions that blends mythology and science fiction seamlessly. Each level is presented in an innovative way that makes you feel like you are playing through an ambitious anime, complete with mid-episode bumpers and previews for the next installment. This unique presentation is a major part of this game's charm and adds yet another layer to its appeal. For even more gameplay value, Capcom, never wanting to pass up a chance to cross-pollinate their brands and properties, offers up some DLC where Asura can battle Street Fighter characters Ryu and Akuma. These lost chapters consist of stages based on Street Fighter style combat and also the more open area slugfest features in Asura's Wrath. Oh yeah, and in an after-credits sequence set 87 million years after the events of the game, which seems like an odd amount of time, but okay, a version of Chun-Li appears as a traffic cop. It's kind of weird. I picked up the game on the Xbox Online Store for around $4, $4 or $5. I believe it is currently back up to about $15 to $20, somewhere in that range, but they often have sales, and if you keep an eye out, you might be able to pick it up on the cheap, like I did. And the lost chapters will run you $1 or $2. Some might be slightly more expensive. It's been a while since I've checked back on that. Anyway, the new Thor movie is out, so if it inspires you to have a cosmic smackdown against a world-ending God-level threat, and you've played every installment of God of War 1,001 times, and are looking for something a little different, I pray you will check out Asura's Wrath, or Restore Your Faith and revisit it if you've played it before. I wouldn't want Asura to become a forgotten hero. Anyway, this game is rad. Check it out if you never have. It's totally worth it. And if it's been a while since you've played it, go and give it another look. It's also totally worth it. It's great. So, here we are at the end of another video. Thank you very much for watching. I appreciate it. Thank you for sticking through this rambling offering to the demigods. Like and subscribe if you want to. The best part of that is it's absolutely free, and it would help me out. I would appreciate it a great deal. Thanks for watching. I appreciate it. I appreciate you. And until next time, I will see you.